Hey guys, welcome back to the Joe Jaguar Show. You remember this shirt? This is a shirt that Angelus gave me. Can't remember if it was for my birthday or something, but anyway. Your best friend in astronomy, science, and telescope. Today is a subject, even when I talk about people who are in the hobby, who have telescopes, and sometimes people who are not in the hobby, they do not understand. What are we talking about? Light pollution. Light pollution and how far does it hinder us? And again, I'm talking to people that even have telescopes, have been in a hobby 1 or 2 years, and they still don't understand. Sometimes when we talk, it's like, oh, how far do you go? I go here, and we talk about then light pollution. And again, they don't know. They just, a lot of times people, they go camping, let's say, it's dark. You have to come here, and then I look on the sky pollution map, and then it's like, oh, it's like a yellow zone. But they're so used to, like in the city, how much stars you can see above. When they get just sometimes 2 or 3 zones better, they think it's amazing, and that's dark. Well, take into consideration this. In a white zone, okay, if I go to a park where there's absolutely no stray lights of any kind, of park lights or street lights, it's dark, right? But there's a few different light pollutions that people don't always understand. Okay. One is the light pollution where, wherever you're located. You can't change that, so you have to do the best you can. The other light pollution that you guys can help is the ambient light pollution. And that is stuff like the street lights, your house lights, car lights, parking lights, any type of lights, garage, even flashlights. So if you go to a park or your backyard, and if you can cut every single type of, or block every type of white light, your eyes now can fully adapt to its full potential. And I'm not saying you're going to beat the light pollution that's above you, but at least you can theoretically get as dark as you can get wherever you're located. So that's the first thing you guys need to do. Is the first most important thing to do is you have to block out every type of stray light that is out there. And you got to make sure if you're using a phone app, it has a red sensor, and you got to put it on very dim. No white flashlights at any kind, okay? And it has to be a red LED light that you're using. If you guys do that, and if you're in a light polluted zone, again, I've made a video called what size to use if you live in and around a very heavy light polluted zone. And I talk about 10. 8 is the bare minimum, but 10 to 12 is more ideal. Now, going bigger doesn't always mean that it's going to be better and you're going to see the deep sky objects. However, by going bigger, you do see more. So, for instance, in the middle of a white zone, I was able to see like the Cat's Eye Nebula as a few, the Ring, the Dumbbell. There's probably so many more, the Little Dumbbell, the Owl Cluster, the Owl Nebula, the J Cluster, or the Coat Hanger, they call it sometimes. There's so many different things. M6, M36, 7, and 8. There's a whole bunch of deep sky. The open clusters are easy. Globular clusters, M13, of course, that's the best one, 92, 5, M3. I can't remember every single one, but there's a ton of open clusters that you can see, double stars. And you can see once you get dark adapted and you're about the 10 and 12 inch, even some nebulas you can see pretty decent. Now there is a lot of nebulas you will not see, and mostly galaxies is very hard to do. But again, you can glimpse them with this size if you're dark adapted. Now let's take a look at my computer. I'm going to show you some zones in the light polluted. And again, people who are even in this hobby that don't even still understand the light, because what you have to remember, how I teach people is like a flashlight. If you take like a major big city, the light is not going straight like this. You know what I mean? It goes more like a cone. And then if you have another town or city here, another here, it's like they're all merging, and wherever they merge, it's a super white zone, and then beyond that, it might be a white zone. You go further, it becomes a red zone, and you sometimes have to travel many kilometers, like from, let's say, Toronto, Boston, New York, Chicago, Detroit, all these big cities out there, and cities in UK and Europe, it's the same thing. You might travel at least close to an hour sometimes to get one zone better. Again, depends how big of a light you're talking about. But let's take a look and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, as you guys can see, here's North America. And if you just go look at the United States, I'm going to use the mouse pointer. Hopefully you guys can see. You can see the whole east side of the U.S. is huge light polluted. And then when it comes to the west side, it's so much less. Sometimes there's popping up ads in here, but hopefully you guys can ignore it. Now, if you look at Canada, it is, majority of it is lots of black zones, gray zones. Now, Toronto is right here. This little guy right down there. So since I live there, let's talk about that. But really, as you can see, Toronto over here is the same as Detroit, Chicago, Cleveland, New York over here, Rhode Island, Washington, you know, all these big cities here, St. Paul, they're, you know, Montreal is big, Quebec a little less. You're talking about major. Again, since I live in Toronto, let's stick to there. So, as you can see, this white zone, I'm actually located right here, about 2/3, like almost away from the white zone, almost into a red zone. But before, when I was talking about, I was more or less like over here somewhere, right dead center in the center. And as you can see, the white zone extends all the way here. Now, me and Angeles just went to Port Perry, which is right here, which is a little tiny town. I don't know exactly if it's about 2,000 people. And just here, when we were driving from this white zone here to here, it was probably 30, 35 minutes driving in the country. It's mostly farm. And she's like, Joe, wouldn't it be really dark right here? And it's like, no, babe, it's like red-orange zone right here. But what happens is people, when you go through a country and you're just like 20 minutes and all you see is farmland, you keep driving, it's farmland for 20 minutes, they think like this must be dark. And, you know, in reality, you probably just went one zone better. They don't fully understand, again, the light cone of this city, that city, this city, and all these towns merge. And it's like, you know what I mean? It does take, once you get out of that white zone, it's like 30 minutes to get to the next white zone. But then eventually it starts to become faster and faster to the other zones because the cities are more dispersed. It's maybe smaller cities or towns. The one term that I do hate is when people say a gas filter. Basically what that means, if you live in a light polluted zone, buy or fill up your tank of gas and then go to a dark site, and that will be better. Like, so basically they're, instead of like sometimes people want like, is nebula filters good or light pollution filter good? They do help. That's another thing you guys can use, but they're mainly on nebulas. So I've done a couple videos on that. So if you guys are thinking of nebula filters, I classify them as like 4 different levels of visual nebula filters. Check it out. Just Google or search my channel for nebula filters. You should find it. But yes, there's the nebula filters or light pollution filters will help a bit on nebulas or emission nebulas, planetary nebulas, and etc. There's a couple different reflection nebulas. But anyway, but I would say if you guys are in the city or in around the city, look at the planets, double stars, and the clusters. If you really want to see, like if you get serious in this and you really want to see this stuff really good, you need to really go to the 10 to 12. Now, I've gone to the 16-inch, and it doesn't always work. Going bigger and bigger to the point that it's so massive, the gains become smaller and smaller. So from my experience, I would say up to 12, no more, because the gain is just becomes smaller and smaller, and you barely ever see the difference anyway. When you guys can get away, then that's the time you look at the globular clusters, the nebulas, and galaxies. And that's it. Hopefully this video provides you guys with some information. There is literally millions of people. In fact, I heard the stat one time, it's more from Canada, but maybe in your countries it could be the same. 70% of all new builds is the condo market or apartment market. So that means really, if you take that number and think about 70% of everything they're building now is condos and apartments, which means then most likely, let's extrapolate, 70% could be people observing from these white, red zones, orange zones like that. So let's try to help these people out instead of discouraging them. Forget about that term gas filter, because there's also millions of people, obviously that's why they live in the city, that maybe don't even have a vehicle. So, there are ways to combat that light pollution, which is the one above you, you can't help. And when you can get away sometimes to cottage, camping, out of the city, if it's even once a month and it's 6 times a year, who cares? If it's 4 times a year, certain telescope sizes will help, certain filters will help, and just go out and enjoy it. But again, do that easy stuff from the city, do that other stuff that you can't see. So for instance, I don't do the planets ever, unless I'm just showing new people if we're, at a dark site, they've never seen the planets, okay. But normally I would never look at the planets from a dark site. You can see them from anywhere, and they look exactly identical, 99%. So again, look at the hard stuff when you're away. That's it, guys. Like, comment, subscribe. If you know anybody that is thinking of getting into astronomy, share my link. You guys on the forums, if you want to share my link with people that asking questions that I have a video for, I would be very grateful. Why not you? Why not me? Let's grow together. Cheers.